If someone's sitting there and going, my partner's burnt out, is not in a great place, what would you recommend?
First thing, like make sure you're looking after yourself first. Instead of saying, my partner's burnt out and using that as an excuse. Yes, your partner might be burnt out 100%, but if that's stopping you from doing anything else, that's when I want you to look at yourself and go, what can I do to support my partner here? Rather than just making that as an excuse for you not showing up for yourself. And then the second thing, I would just communicate to them and ask them, look, I can see that you're struggling at the moment. What do you need right now? How can I help you right now?
Yeah, I guess lessening the pressure on both of you. It's a journey. You don't have to fix the burnout. You don't have to get rid of the burnout as quick as we can because we've got to get back to normal life. And it's okay to experience that. And we'll just go with it, alleviate some things.
It's a process that you need to go through together. Yeah.
Exactly.
I just wanted to ask, obviously you work together and you noted, okay, we spend a lot of time together, but talk to me the difference and the kind of boundaries that you've had to put in from working together versus kind of quality time together.
Yeah.
Can I start on this one?
Sure. That's a fantastic. Steve, you're full of the good questions. I love it.
Yeah, I love chatting to Steve. Steve's the best. Yeah, I feel like it was definitely a transition because, we met working together at Woolworths back in the day. Back in the day. But that was different, right? Now we're literally side-by-side desks working from home a lot of the time and then, out at workplaces delivering workshops together and the business is together. So I feel like at the beginning, it was really tough, especially as I kind of semi-created it, I guess. And then you kind of came in and then it was a big adjustment of me having to let go a lot because I thought, this is my baby and this is my thing and you're doing your thing. And I was stuck in my head and in my ego a lot. And I thought, okay, let's let down the walls and let you in. And then we need to readjust because now you've got your set roles and I've got my set roles. So I think that's something that's really helped us is having set roles. Instead of both of us trying to dabble in the same or similar tasks and then getting on each other's feet, if that makes sense, and stepping on each other. It just makes no sense. So finding your strengths. So your strengths are completely different to mine. My strengths are completely different, which is why we work really well together. Don't go in business together if you're both the same business archetype and you have the same strengths because you're not going to work. You're just going to butt heads. And our business mentor, Morgan, he said, well, you've both got different complementary strengths and you're both completely different archetypes. You're more the implementer, I'm more the visionary. So we work really well together. So I think getting to know each other more and like you would in any workplace as well, like getting our personality types. And I'm more the dominant personality type as you're more the...
that's the socialite and the one who, the implement, I call it the implementer.
Yeah.
Lauren comes up with this grand vision and goes, okay, can you go and implement that? And so, okay. And then I'll go in the back end and I'll, do all the systems type thing.
You're the systems guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it works well, knowing your strengths and weaknesses, communicating that, setting the different roles. And then I guess within the relationship, which is a challenge for us because we love what we do. So I think it's not just a job, it's a passion. It's finding times where we go, we're not talking about business right now because we're not really great at that. At the moment, especially as we've got the big thing happening at the end of the year, which I know we'll talk about, but we're just so passionate and we have ideas all the time. We'd go for a walk. It's like, wow, have you thought about this? Or did we get that done? Or did we message that person? Or we need to talk to that person, so that's hard.
The best thing that we've implemented even in the past 3 months is on a Wednesday night, it's not a night where we talk about business at all. The office door is closed and it's time for us. We have dinner we always have dinner together. I think that's the one thing that we've always implemented is we're always having dinner together, unless of course someone is out doing whatever or they're away. But over that dinner time, we don't talk about business if we can. But the Wednesday night, it's a time where we just chill out.
You don't talk about business at dinner for sure.
Yeah, we don't talk about business on a Wednesday night. We literally either we're out doing something or we are, watching TV, doing something for ourselves essentially, but together. And then at least one day of the weekend as well. At the moment we're training for Kokoda. So we go out for a hike once a week and it's just a time to get in nature and just enjoy each other's company. But then at the same time, like Lauren said, sometimes you get these downloads and we've sort of got this, I don't know how you say it, but like a subtle, like, can we talk about business now? Okay, let me try it. And then we'll talk about for business for maybe half an hour. And then it's okay, let's go back to, look at the place we're in right now. We're in the middle of a rainforest. Listen to the birds, how cool, like the cool air that we can feel and things like that. So I think the biggest thing to help us in our like relationship and business is definitely the Wednesday night. That was an absolute game changer. But knowing when we leave the office as best as we can, we don't talk about business. We can close.
Hard.
It's definitely tricky and it's something we're still learning to do for sure. But close the door. That's where work is. It's in the office.
It's funny because you're very much like that, right? But I'll admit I'm not, because I don't understand why we have to be. Like, I don't understand why we should do that, because I think when you close the door, because it's our business and our passion and it's our mission, it's not 9 till 5, right? So I feel like you're stopping the ideas, you're stopping the creativity if we just go, that's the time we talk about business, because then I'll be itching and it's like, okay, I can write it down.
Well, that's because you're the visionary one.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, if you stop me and put me in a cage, you're locking up the lion, to be honest, the lioness, right? And if you lock up the lioness, you're locking up the potential that we can have in our business, because that is my role within the business.
Yeah. But I suppose,
so I do struggle with that.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why we're
Steele's like, is this a mediation?
Nah. Thanks for being the third person here, Steve. I really needed you. No. But I think I've never not shut you down unless it's, 10 past 10 at night. It's like, Lauren, I just need some sleep right
Jace
now.
doesn't do well after 9 o'clock.
After 9 o'clock or before like 7, don't talk to me.
No.
Particularly about
8 o'clock.
Maybe before the coffee.
Yep.
Nah, Jason's, yeah. But that's good though I think we work well because we're yin and yang, and you can ground me and go, okay, this is our time not to talk. And I go and push you out of your comfort zone and go, actually, we can do a bit more and we can talk about things. So yeah, it's a work in progress. But I feel like we're doing really well in it, actually.
And I think that's a really good segue. You talk about your different archetypes and your different personalities. And so let's kind of move into the corporate space. You guys do a lot of workshops. You work with a lot of organizations around implementing wellness and focusing on performance and how that kind of affects their health and how you can get better productivity. Talk to me about how organizations and how you see organizations implementing or what you suggest in regards to being able to kind of unlock the best version of their team members when everyone is different.
Yeah, I love that. I think one thing that, shocks the corporate world when we talk about this is the love languages. A lot of people just think, the love languages are only in a relationship. But what happens when you bring it into work is people feel seen, valued, and heard. We've spoken at workshops before, and even our networking events we've spoken to it about as well, is find out your colleagues' love languages and then do something once a week, once a month, whatever it is, but regularly to do with their love language. So if it's gifts, bring them a coffee in the morning, once a month, and see that, they light up. Physical touch is always an interesting one, particularly when we talk about, with HR and things.
Yeah.
It might just be it might be a high five. It might be a handshake. It might just be, a tap on the shoulder. You're doing a great job. Just those little things. So love language is 100% one of the things that I always go to, and it does shock people. But if you literally just Google like workplace love languages, then the workplace test comes up. There is a slightly different test, obviously, to a relationship. So that's definitely one of them for me.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, I feel like just getting to know your people rather than have them as numbers, which I know gets harder as the organization gets bigger. But then I think you'd have those managers that would really lead that team. And they kind of should know their team a bit more in terms of, what's their personality type? What drives them? What's their motivators? What demotivates them at the same time? What do they need to feel, seen and heard? That's massive in performance, because you can set their KPIs, but if there's nothing really driving them to get those KPIs done, then you're going to see a lack of performance. And you might go, well, Johnny's lazy, it's not getting it done. But if he's not feeling valued, seen or heard, or if you're not communicating in a way that suits his personality type, then he's not going to get that performance KPI done as well. So there's a lot of factors. I think it's really coming back to human-centeredness. At the end of the day, we're not robots. We are human with a personality and with things going on both at work and outside of work. And I think if you can really bring that human-centered approach to it, not just a computer getting the KPIs done, then the performance will go hand in hand once you lead with human-centered.
Yeah, and I love how you brought up like the motivation, what motivates people. Because I think in the corporate world, we get caught up of saying, okay, everyone's motivated by money. So if you get XYZ KPI done, you'll get your bonus at the end of the year. Now, I know that, there's probably about 50% of my circle, they're not actually motivated by money. They're motivated by perhaps freedom. It's like, well, I don't want the bonus. I don't want the 10K bonus at the end of the financial year. Just give me 2 days off and I'll be happy. It's actually, at the end of the day, it could be saving the business money because it's not that 10K bonus, but at the same time, it's also helping, if we go back to Johnny, it's also helping Johnny because all that Johnny wants is 2 days off to spend time with his family, to go on the family holiday. It's not necessarily the money. So finding out what your employees value and what motivates them for sure is a big game changer when it comes to performance.
Yeah, perfect. So what are you seeing as the biggest challenges in corporate workplaces right now affecting wellness and well-being for team members?
It's a good question. There's one that we get asked a lot, and I think it depends on what angle we're coming from, who we're speaking to within the workplace. I think there's obviously still a challenge, unfortunately, that some workplaces don't see it as a value. They don't see that working on the team's well-being and their stress management is a leading indicator of performance. So that's still something that we're coming up against.
Yeah, they see it as more as a nicety rather than, oh, that would be nice when we hit X, Y, Z.
Yeah, people feel like they're too busy to be able to prioritize it. So there's still resistance there. So I think that's a common trend still, unfortunately, and that we're fighting against in some way because we can't get into the workplace if they're not open to even having a conversation. So that's definitely something. I don't know if you can comment first.
Yeah, I suppose when we're talking to an individual, it's like, wow, we really need this in my business. We really need this in my workplace. Great. Can you connect me with the manager? Sure enough, they do that. We explain what we do and how we can help your business in terms of culture, performance, retention. It's like, oh, yeah, look, that is something, but at the moment, we've got this in at the moment. Or it might be, oh, we're coming to the end of the financial year. Budgets are a little bit tight. It's like, yeah, okay, budgets may be tight, but imagine when we come in and then performance of your staff increases, how much more cash flow you would get into your organization. And then that's when you can start to see the almost like the realizations like, oh, okay. But it's that's one of the first barriers that we hit for sure is, oh no, we're waiting for X, Y, Z, or we're waiting for the team to get bigger. Well, you don't need to wait until your team gets bigger. We've worked with teams of 10 before, and literally in their organizations, a team of 10. And then because we've helped that 10, they're in their thriving state because then they've been able to scale from there. It is a lot harder, and I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's a lot harder to scale when your team is not thriving.
Yeah.
So it's always...
When you think about it, if you have an organization that say, hey, Jace, hey, Lauren, we've got 1,500 people and we need to change our workplace performance and well-being culture. It's a lot harder, right, when you're kind of a business that's kind of just massive compared to a business that starts and maybe they only have 3 or 4, right? But if you can get that culture and the foundations laid, when they do grow their business into multiple locations or whatever industry it will be different. But then they can build with that from the start, rather than going, oh, how do we implement this? And it's like, okay, you got 1,500 people in your organization. Wow, this is not going to be able to just flick a switch and we fix it. This is going to kind of take some time. But they're like, okay, so can you put that into a 45-minute session?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, can we get all 1,500 in one room? Oh no, we don't have the space for that. Okay.
Yeah, you get it all, mate. It is interesting, and I think that makes sense. They don't understand, and our job to understand.
Correct. Yeah.
But yeah, we get that too. Steve is like, can you fix all of our 10, 20, 30, 50, 100-year problems in just one session? It's like, no, this is an ongoing journey. So it's just about us, I guess, showing what's possible and being that sort of role model in the space of like, when you can do it and be the, show the journey, then people will become on board. It is a slower process, I think, to get people on board sometimes. But once you've had a few, like for us, we get a few rounds under our belt and they go, oh, did they work with you? Yeah. Oh, okay. And then it gets them thinking. They're like, oh, well, if they did it and they're like similar to us, then maybe it would work for us.
Yeah. It's one of the things I really struggle with is that, like I'll chat to someone and I'll say, 2-day mental health first aid course, or we can do a blended online and, this is the investment. And people will be like, oh, yep. And they talk about, we can't really quite afford that at the moment. And I sit there and I go, but you're paying recruitment companies like 5, 10, 15, 20,000 to get someone on because you've just had a little bit of churn and burn in your business. Why have you had the churn and burn in your business, right? And, I always say, and you'd relate to this as well, Lauren, it's about like gyms, right? Gyms are always like in shopping centers and trying to get more members in. If they actually would focus the investment and the money and the time on the members in their community, they wouldn't actually have to do as much of that outbound, because their members would be posting on Instagram, would be posting on their stories, would be saying to friends, hey, this is like an amazing gym. The community is fantastic. You've got to come and join. And you would just have lines out the door because people would just be coming through and being attracted. And it's like, whether it's a gym or whether it's an organization, it's having that organization and that environment of attraction where people want to work for you. People want to be within that environment.
Yeah, I like that analogy of the gym because it's so true. And it's actually a conversation I've had recently with my brother, because he works in that space of corrective exercise. And I said to him, like, there's so many injuries and things that are coming forward in gyms, and then people have to leave. And it's the same in workplaces. It's a mental injury or some sort of toxic workplace that creates them leaving, causes them to leave. And so your retention's really low. It's like, well, can we work on the problems that are causing them to leave, causing them to have injuries, so we can stop that from happening? But I feel organizations think it's just easier to just get more people and just let them go. And maybe it's easier because they don't want to feel the feeling that comes to it when they realize what's actually happening. Yeah. When they actually sit and go, wow, we've created toxic cultures that people are leaving from, or we've caused mental health problems in our workers, and that's why they're going, because that's hard one to swallow sometimes. And I think that's maybe a part of why they don't want to address the issue.
Yeah. And I think they see as, the Band-Aid approach is quicker and it's cheaper. But when you're buying 50 packets of Band-Aids, the Band-Aids are now more expensive than, one program. So I suppose it's, showing them the difference. Yes, you can keep going with Band-Aids. There's a hole, we'll plug it here. But the water's still going to find a leak eventually, unless you cover your bucket with Band-Aids, and then you've got just a Band-Aid for a business, essentially. Whereas if we, were to come in, we're able to fix the problem at the root cause right there and then, you don't need a Band-Aid anymore, and you're done. You're set for however long.
You can't create a business or organization on shaky ground. Like, Correct. It's really about creating the strengths and the foundations from the ground and then nurturing it as it grows. Because I think people can grow too quickly in the organization too, and then they realize they've got all these problems. And then the organization will crumble. I think we'll see the rise in the workplaces that are really doing these sorts of things properly, working on their well-being, looking after their teams. They're the ones that are going to last in the next 10, 20, 50 years, because it's become something that people are becoming aware of. People can leave your organization to work for those businesses so fast.
Correct. It's so competitive out there these days.
So,
yeah. And people are not necessarily looking for, we've gone to the days where I'm going to leave this job because I get more money over there. People are actually leaving their job for a job with less pay because they feel more valued at this position or at this new role. So that's where people
especially the newer generations coming forward, like thinking about our generation and younger ones. We value totally different things. But I think the older generation, maybe the boomers, they want the money. Like, they just see the pay packet, they turn up to work, they get their work done, and they go home, and that's what they're in for. But then the people like us and in this generation, we value freedom. We value autonomy. There's just so many different aspects that come into retaining your staff now.
It comes right back to what motivates your staff, what does your staff value, and really just getting to know your staff. That's, honestly the best way to fix things. Just get to know your staff. What do they want?
Yeah, 100%. And I think one of the key things I always say when I'm talking about, mental health first aid and wellness and wellbeing in an organization and for people individually is, are you being reactive or proactive? Now, as human beings in organizations and as leaders, most people are reactive, right? And, it saddens me from a mental health first aid perspective is when I've had people sit in my courses and they say, do you know what? I have been pleading with my boss to send me to this course for a good couple of years and really want to kind of, cement it and put it into the foundation of our organization. And I said, oh, well, what changed? And they said, oh, well, 2 people within our team unfortunately took their life, right? So it was a reactive thing, not a proactive thing, and that's two team members that sadly lost their lives, right? And obviously could have been experiencing completely, different challenges. But in saying that, I just sit there and I go, what if they would have had an environment where they could have said, hey, I need help, and then it gives you a better, more loyal, more productive team member that's part of the team because they feel supported, not because of what they've just been through, but they feel supported that if they do reach a challenge. And is someone like that going to want to leave? No.
Yeah, it's true. It's I'm glad you said that, because now thinking about that is something that we commonly see. Is more people hire us, unfortunately, because they're being reactive. And it's our job to educate them and go, you can have us when you just want to maintain and grow and improve, but it's not because something's happened.
Yeah.
It's not because you're getting all these complaints that people are stressed or, things are not working within the organization. You realize that Bob hasn't slept in 2 weeks. Because we have seen drastic things like that happening in the workplace. I'm like, whoa. And you bring it to light. You go, do you realize that some of your team are not sleeping and they're working 80 hours a week? Oh, are they? I'm like, you must know this. But because we do our audits and stuff, we, fill in the gaps for them and I guess get information that they might not necessarily get from their team. So that's also a good reason, I think, to get external people into your business, is because we can see things from a different lens, and also people can trust us because they can be anonymous, right? They're not going to their boss directly to tell them that they're struggling as well. So that's always a good segue, I think, to get this ball rolling.